At my graduation dinner, my dad said, "You don't deserve your success." I replied, "Then let Joshua pay your bills," and walked out. That was the last time I ever looked back. I said it calmly, with a smile that showed I knew he wasn't on my side. After I spoke, everything went quiet. It felt like time stopped for a moment, and I could see everyone's reactions. The laughter stopped, the noise from utensils disappeared, and my dad blinked slowly, unsure of what I had said, but I knew exactly what I meant. For the first time, I said something without second-guessing myself. This dinner was supposed to celebrate my graduation. I had worked hard to get through Oak Haven, a top public university, mostly on my own. I paid for it with scholarships, part-time jobs, and late-night tutoring. It wasn't easy, but I did it. No one in my family helped me, but I invited them to celebrate. I spent almost all my money to rent a restaurant patio, order food, and hire a musician. I wanted the night to feel special, like a new start, but maybe it was, just not in the way I expected. Everyone showed up, my quiet mom, my aunt and uncle who never knew whether to support or watch, my little cousins playing with balloons, and my dad, who showed up late, already tipsy, and in a wrinkled fishing shirt. Joshua didn't come, he rarely did, but my dad still talked about him all night, especially when he said those words that changed everything. "You don't deserve the success," my dad said, almost like making a toast. Joshua did. He wasn't joking or drunk, he meant it, and it hurt. I realized I had spent my whole life hoping he would say he was proud of me, but I knew he never would, so I raised my glass and said, "Great, then he can start paying your bills too." I didn't need to yell, everyone heard me. A few people even smiled, not because it was funny, but because they understood. I put my glass down, looked at my dad one last time, and left without saying anything else. I didn't go home. I couldn't stay there, so I drove around, not knowing where I was going. By midnight, I ended up at Lookout Point, a place where people went to think. I turned off my car and left the windows down. The cold didn't bother me, it kept me awake, and all I could hear in my head was, "You don't deserve the success, Joshua did." I had worked hard for everything, my degree, my job, my independence. What had Joshua done to deserve more than me? He dropped out of college after one semester, and my dad still called him the smart one. I got my first job at 16 to buy my own school clothes, while Joshua almost got fired from a job but was still praised. It didn't seem fair. I didn't realize how much worse it was until my third year of college. I came home one weekend and saw that Joshua's tuition was paid in full. I was upset but didn't say anything. I told myself maybe they couldn't help me or thought I didn't need it. But that night, hearing my dad talk about Joshua while ignoring everything I had done, I knew the truth. I thought back on everything. I went through old memories and saw the pattern, who they helped and who they left to struggle. It wasn't about money, it was about belief. My parents, especially my dad, never believed in me. Standing there at Lookout Point, I whispered, "It ends now." I wasn't just talking about that night, I meant the pretending, the silent hope, the constant need to prove myself. I was done trying to make people care who never did. I'd spent years trying to get noticed, but it never happened. My family wasn't evil, but they just didn't care. They only needed me when it was convenient, helping with taxes, fixing computers, giving rides. They didn't hate me, they just didn't care. That realization stayed with me for days. I didn't answer calls or messages. My aunt messaged me saying Dad wasn't himself, and Mom left a voicemail saying not to let one moment ruin everything. But it wasn't just one moment, it was all the little things. The times they praised Joshua and ignored me, like when I talked about my future and Dad said I was too much, but later bragged about Joshua starting a band. The band never even played. All the frustration I had been hiding started coming up. Old memories I hadn't thought about for years started coming back. Like the time I broke my arm in high school and still got blamed for missing practice, while Joshua failed every class and got rewarded with a trip to Florida to relax. Or the day I opened my college acceptance letter and my dad said, "Don't count on us to pay for anything." I wasn't counting on it, I never had, but I gave everything I had, my time, my money, my energy, my silence. Eventually, I had nothing left to give. There wasn't a big moment where I yelled or broke down. I just stopped. I stopped reaching out. I stopped replying. I stopped hoping they'd change. They always wanted me to be the quiet, dependable one, the one who helped but stayed in the background. I played that role for so long that I almost forgot I didn't have to anymore. The decision didn't come with a big realization. It happened on a regular Tuesday, just a normal, boring Tuesday. 2 days after the dinner, I woke up, made coffee, sat at my small kitchen table, and looked at the only photo from my graduation. It was taken before I left the restaurant. In the background, people were laughing, food was on the table, and balloons were floating in the air, but I wasn't looking at them, I was looking at myself. I didn't look proud or relieved, I just looked exhausted, like someone who had carried something heavy for so long, they forgot it was okay to put it down. That's when I picked up my phone, not to text or call, but to block. First my dad, then my mom, then Joshua, then the family group chat that only remembered me when they needed help. One by one, I shut them out. No speeches, no posts, no goodbys. I just turned down the noise. Then I started packing up. I had stayed in that apartment out of habit. It was close enough for them to call me, but far enough for me to feel like I had some space. But it never felt like mine. It was just a place between trying and giving up. I was tired of waiting. I sold most of my things, used the money to pay off some of my student loans, and handed my lease to a coworker. In 2 weeks, I was gone. New apartment, new city, new phone number, no goodbyes, no explanations. The only thing I took was my diploma. I framed it and hung it above my desk, not to impress anyone, but as a reminder to myself that I did it alone, that it mattered, even if no one else acknowledged it. It was strange how loud life had felt when they were still in it. Their words, their judgments, their backhanded comments. Should I text them? Maybe this time they'll understand. But when all that noise went away, I thought I'd feel lonely, but I didn't. I felt lighter. That first night in my new apartment, I sat on the floor. No couch, no bed, just a mattress and a box of food. It was quiet, not the kind of silence that makes you anxious, but the kind that feels peaceful, like air slowly filling your lungs. I didn't check my phone, didn't scroll, didn't wonder who was trying to reach me. I already knew what I'd see: missed calls, guilt-tripping texts, the same old attempts to pull me back, but I had blocked all of it, not to hurt them, but because there was nothing left to explain to people who had already decided who I was. In that silence, I started to remember who I used to be. I remembered how much I loved cooking before every family meal turned into a moment to be judged. So, the second night, I made myself something real: roasted vegetables, garlic bread, and pasta. But I ate it at a table I put together myself. I remembered I used to sketch. While unpacking, I found old notebooks filled with sketches I hadn't looked at in years. I spent a few nights drawing again. No fear of being watched, no pressure, just me and my art. Little by little, new people started to show up in my life. There was Thomas, who lived nearby. He invited me to his game nights with his friends. Then there was Laura, who I met at a bookstore. We started talking over coffee. My coworkers started seeing me as more than just the dependable one. They actually wanted to hear my story. They didn't know about the years I spent trying to win my family's affection, and I wasn't about to explain it. They just liked me for who I was now, and I didn't have to prove anything. About 3 months after that dinner, I got home from work one evening when there was a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Not a neighbor, not a delivery. I froze. When I opened it, there was my mom. She looked different, smaller somehow, like she was trying to seem confident but couldn't quite manage it. "I was nearby," she said. Like that explained everything. Figured I'd drop by. I didn't say anything. I just held the door slightly open, letting her decide what to say next. She looked around the apartment, almost surprised that I had built a life separate from them. "Your father's been asking about you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "He's not feeling well. He misses you." That was it. The guilt was there, but I didn't react the way I used to. I just said he had the chance to say that at the party, and calmly closed the door. No hate, just certainty. 7 days later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the time caught my attention. 2:43 a.m. Nobody calls at that hour unless they've been drinking or are emotional. I sat on the edge of my bed, stared at the screen, and hesitated. Eventually, I hit play. It was my dad. His voice was slow and controlled. "What's your deal?" he said. "You've always acted like you were above us, like the world owes you something. You finished your degree. Good for you, but don't pretend you did it all on your own. You come from us, and sooner or later, you'll come back." The line cut off. No apology, no acknowledgement, just more of the same. But this time, his words didn't affect me. They only confirmed what I already knew. I didn't belong to their story anymore, and that realization brought me peace. When I heard the voicemail, I didn't feel angry. I didn't cry. I just sat in my apartment, looking at the lights, and realized I was done. Not broken, not crushed, just done. It's strange how final something can feel without a big moment. No shouting, no explosion, just silence. I listened to a voice that used to matter, and now it was nothing. It felt like hearing someone I once knew, but they no longer had any impact on my life. That voicemail was the last time I heard him speak. I didn't block the number, didn't respond. I just left it there, like all the questions I used to ask myself. Not reacting brought me more peace than arguing ever could. Things didn't become perfect, but they became real. I found work that felt right for me, nothing fancy, just steady and mine. I also started doing freelance design work that let me be creative again. Those projects helped me remember I wasn't just what my family made me feel like. Slowly, my apartment started to feel like home. Bookshelves filled with books I loved, a second-hand dining table with mismatched chairs, but somehow they worked together. A framed picture of me in my cap and gown, smiling, not to show off, but because I was proud of myself. I made new friends who didn't want anything from me, and I didn't feel guilty about it. Thomas, my neighbor, became a real friend. One night, we had beers and I told him everything. He wasn't surprised or awkward. He just handed me another drink and said, "Some families lift you up, some tear you apart. Looks like yours did both." Laura and I started spending more time together, too. It was slow, steady, and real. No games, no drama, just two people who had been hurt but were still willing to try. That made it special. I didn't rebuild my life to show anyone anything. I did it because I finally believed I deserved a good life, not because of what I achieved or suffered, but because everyone deserves to feel loved and cared for without earning it. One afternoon, while I was hanging a new picture on the wall, my phone rang. 37 missed calls, all from people I used to know. The same people who only remembered me when they wanted something. I looked at the screen, turned the sound off, and went back to hanging the frame. It was a quiet Sunday, the kind of day where everything felt peaceful and the sun made the world look softer. I was walking home from the coffee shop, holding a warm loaf of sourdough and 2 iced drinks, one for me, one for Laura. She was waiting for me at my apartment, flipping through the record collection we'd been building together. I wasn't thinking about my family at all, until I turned the corner and saw my mom's car parked outside. It hadn't been there in almost a year. I stopped walking. My heart stayed calm. My mind didn't panic. She was standing by the front door of my building, looking up at the windows like she didn't know which one was mine anymore. She hadn't seen me yet. I stood a little farther down the street and watched. She was holding something, maybe a letter. Maybe it said, "We miss you," or "Your dad didn't mean it," or "Can we talk?" But I didn't need to read it. I already knew how that story would go. I didn't call her name, didn't walk up to her, didn't turn around. I just walked by, slow and calm. She looked up as I crossed the street, and we made eye contact. She opened her mouth to speak, but I gave her nothing. No wave, no smile, no look, just silence. Not to hurt her, but to protect my peace. I had already forgiven her, quietly, without a speech. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back in, especially when they don't know how to approach you. I went upstairs to my apartment. Laura was there, barefoot, hair tied up, playing an old record. It felt like a peaceful movie scene. She smiled when she saw me. I handed her the drink and kissed her cheek like nothing had happened, because, to me, nothing had. The past stayed outside, but I was already home. My diploma hangs above my desk now. Simple black frame, no lights, no special display, just quiet proof of what I did when no one was cheering me on. Sometimes, in the evening, I sit under it with a warm cup of coffee, the window open, soft music playing. That's my favorite part of the day. The quiet, the peace, the reminder of who I've become. My phone sits beside me, still full of missed calls. Some from my mom, some from distant relatives who only called when they needed something. Even a few from unknown numbers I could guess. I don't block them anymore, but I don't answer either. What would I say? That I'm okay now? That I'm happy? That I found love, real friends, and peace, not because of them, but despite everything they did. I don't owe them that story. I lived it. That's enough.